Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are listening to this. This is the Investing Bros Morning News Update, and we've got a lot to talk about. But the most important thing we're going to talk about in this video is a tactic that you have to know if you are holding Bitcoin. If you want to know when to buy, when to sell, you need to know this tactic because it's one of the easiest ways to pinpoint the perfect spots to be buying and selling. Make sure, though, you go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe if you love crypto and love the TA and news to know every single day what you need to be doing with your crypto holdings. Before we go into our news with T Shroom, let's go ahead and take a look at some of our economic data here. We talked about this yesterday, but just a reminder, a lot of Fed speeches happening today. This could tell us a lot about maybe what the Fed is doing, but even more so, tomorrow the FOMC minutes will be posted at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll kind of give us a good conclusion about at least what the next month and probably a little bit after that would look like. We also tomorrow will see PPI numbers coming out in the morning. And then Thursday, Great Britain's GDP and the U.S. inflation will be out early in the morning. So make sure you guys stick around and watch the rest of the week to make sure you stay up to date, everything happening there. We're still seeing overwhelming amount of support saying we're going to see a rate pause here in November. But again, let's wait to see what the FOMC minutes look like tomorrow. This is the first negative sign that I'm seeing here right now. I told you guys yesterday, I thought, especially with the fact that Bitcoin prices had dipped over the last 2 days, that we would finally see the fear and greed index tick back down, maybe slightly into fear, but instead we're staying right at 50. Guys, when the price drops, but the fear and greed index stays the same, that is a situation that's actually a negative indication, and maybe we could see the price continue to move to the downside as we start to tick back into the fear. Not a good sign so far. Let's take a quick look at CoinMarketCap this morning. Bitcoin technically up over the last 24 hours, but just slightly. There's not really that many big movers within our top 20. Matic down 2% is probably one of the bigger ones we're seeing here. Let's take a look at anything outside of that top 20 to see if there's any big movers. Tezos up almost 7%. Atom up 4.3% are our biggest movers of the day. Thorchain is up 2.76%. It's been in the red column here last couple of days. You guys can see over the last 7 days down almost 17%. So good to see Thorchain back in the green. Let's take a look at those biggest losers. Not a lot of them, but there are a couple. Philcoin is down, or Philcoin, according to what's his name? Gosh, why am I blanking on his name? T-shirt, help me out here.
About
Mad Money.
Okay. Oh, Jim Cramer.
Jim Cramer. I don't know why. Well, Jim Cramer's a forgettable name. He calls it Philcoin. You guys call it Filecoin. It got ingrained into my brain. I've been saying it so much recently. 2.3% down. Polygon Matic, we talked about that, down 2%. Frax down 2%. IOTA down 2%. Multiverse down 2%. So not a lot of red, but there is definitely some red to be seen this morning. Before we jump into the charts, though, let's go ahead and throw it over to T Shroom and cover some news. And let's talk a little bit about that tactic you need to know about to know when to buy and when to sell Bitcoin.
Let's do it, Tim. Well, checking out the first headline here actually comes from an X account. Can you believe it? Twitter is a place to derive breaking news. Interesting. Just in, $4.5 trillion asset manager Fidelity says Bitcoin is the most secured, decentralized, sound digital money compared to any other digital asset. Mm-hmm. While they are extremely late to the game in realizing and publishing this opinion, it is significant because of this number here, $4.5 trillion asset manager. We've known it for a long time. A lot of people have known it for a long time, but you know, these guys take a little longer, but their opinions carry a lot more weight, and that's why we're covering it today. Moving along here.
Well, hold on real quick, T-Shirt. Let's kind of camp out on that one for just a second, because that's the tip right here. This is what people need to look at. T-Shirt and I were talking about it a little bit before shooting this morning. You need to understand when you're looking at large asset managers like Fidelity, like BlackRock, when they speak, they're lying about something. The question is, what are they lying about? Now, they could be lying about Bitcoin being a great asset. They could be saying that to kind of trick you to go the opposite direction. That's not what they're lying about here. And technically, what they're lying about, they didn't even say. What I want to challenge everyone to kind of ingrain into their brain is the timing of when these pieces come out. This is a classic move by large movers.
Yep.
We know that they want to have a Bitcoin ETF. They want to purchase Bitcoin as cheaply as possible to get the most supply possible, because they do believe that Bitcoin is a truly secure, decentralized, and sound digital money. So the lie that they're doing is by putting this out right now, they're going to cause a lot of retail investors to say, what? Bitcoin's really good. Even Fidelity thinks Bitcoin's really good. Maybe we need to go buy some, right? And then when the price dips and crashes, that's the excuse for them to now gobble up more supply. The retail investors feel duped. They don't want to touch Bitcoin. And then later on, when the price pumps, the retail investors missed out on that pump. This is the easiest way to know when to buy and sell. When an opinion piece is made and put out by a large institution or whale who has incentive to try to get as much of it as possible, this is something Wyckoff talks about. He calls the composite man theory. They will constantly try to FOMO you in at tops and fudge you out at bottoms because they want to hold all the supply. So while there's lots of ways to know when to buy and sell, to me, this is one of the greatest reasons why I'm going to continue to believe in the short-term frame. And we're about to talk about the timeline of when we get bullish again. But for the short term, I'm staying bearish, especially because I see articles just like this.
Absolutely, Tim. Couldn't have said it better myself. An opinion that I have is actually that Decrypt.tax is a great tax service. It's just
That's a good opinion.
Little opinion that I have. And there happens to be a link in our description. Bitcoin might meet key pivotal points on November 21st. Here's why. It's basically all a credit to this tweet here is where all the information
Miles
derives
Dusher.
from. Miles Dusher, very, very good guy here, saying that recent price action is still mirroring the last two cycles. This is typical sideways price action that occurs from Q2 to Q4 in pre-halving years. November 2023, 21st, has historically been the key pivot point for a bullish shift. Will be interesting to see how Bitcoin responds. So that's November 21st. Tim,
yeah,
will it happen again?
I mean, that's part of the reason we've been discussing this now for a while. I thought that we would stay with more of a 3-year, 11-month cycle, which is why originally I kind of pegged the end of October as being my pivot point. But Miles makes a great point here. You guys know here in the last week, I've kind of moved my pivot point to the end of November, early December. He's kind of backing that up. And you can see here what we're looking at. We had the 2015 market that just went sideways. It didn't go too far to the downside, just went sideways. I'm going to compare us a lot more to what we see, though, right there in 2019. You can see we continue to dip. We've been comparing to 2019, and the catalyst is there, guys. We have a lot of economic bearish factors that would easily continue to push Bitcoin's price to the downside as we move into November and as we get all the way through it. So November 21st is an interesting date. I think I'm still looking somewhere in that last week of November, maybe even early weeks in December. Will be interesting to see, but I think Miles is spot on here with his analysis of where the pivot area should be.
Absolutely. Everybody wants to know where the bottom is. That's for sure. Bitcoin and crypto poised to skyrocket as end game of U.S. policy nears. So there are a couple details here to be aware of, and the first is actually that ultimately QE is something that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have benefited tremendously from in the last bull market. Alexander therefore also predicts, yes, your internet coins, Bitcoin and crypto, could benefit. So the QE may be just around the corner, Tim. This is going to affect Bitcoin's price 100%, but then the question is it really going to come sooner rather than later?
Yeah, and this is another one. Remember, so these articles are coming out here. I think there's one more just like this T-shirt we're going to talk about, that they're talking about a future optimistic price action, and it's going to cause people, along with the Fidelity news, to think, oh, I need to buy in right now. Which, by the way, guys, if you buy in right now, that's completely fine. A good DCA strategy would say you should be buying right now because you're buying in a macro bearish market. The problem is these articles are going to make people think the price goes up now, and that's not what it's saying. It's saying next year, late quarter one, early quarter two to late quarter two, that area, there's a 3-month period. that's when the explosions can start happening. This might be the first time. I know it says quantitative easing is usually beneficial for Bitcoin. Bitcoin really hasn't been around for too much quantitative easing. In fact, it's never been around for when we've been raising rates this high and then pivot back to cutting rates. Traditionally, markets actually dip and fall in price because a recession hits pretty harshly. This could be the first time we see quantitative easing come into play to prevent harsh recession from a statistical standpoint. A lot of us think that we're kind of in a recession right now, but a statistical standpoint could actually see quantitative easing come in, and instead of crashing stock markets and crypto, we actually could see them boom. And you combine this with the fact that we're going to be on the heels of Bitcoin spot ETFs coming out, the halving event. I think the next article is about the halving event. The halving event should be happening in April. We could see a trifecta of bullish patterns that make the summer of 2024 a pretty explosive summer. Maybe by fall, we're getting back up to hitting a new all-time high. Could be interesting. Got to wait for it to come out, but that's kind of what we're setting ourselves up for mid to late 2024.
Yep, absolutely. And there's some details from this next article that kind of help shed some light on that, which is while the overall sentiment is low, particularly concerning rising rates and the cost of living crisis, Mags, who's an analyst, concluded that Bitcoin is currently moving in line with the past cycles, implying that the 2024 halvings may yield positive price action akin to previous halvings. He kind of draws, he lays to rest his argument here on the 200-day up until the halving. So the kind of that 200-day mark, really important to him. And guess where we are? We're right around it, right? So that's something to keep in mind. And then despite accurate price predictions being notoriously difficult to pull off, analysts are speculating over Bitcoin's post-halving peak price. JP Morgan expects to see a 45,000 top, while Standard Chartered gave a 100,000 call by the end of 2024. And then there's also this tweet directly from Mags kind of showing in 2016, BTC was 65% below all-time high. And then, something similar in 19. And then fast forwarding to today, Bitcoin is currently right at 60% below its all-time high. Get another picture there of that cool halving schedules. We'll camp out. Is this going to happen again, Tim? I mean, this is the mantra for our clip here.
I think it will, but here's the thing to not forget. Right now, we're seeing all these opinions come out. We're seeing these talks about what will happen next year. Do not be surprised when we get to April and we're having the halving event and we've had the spot ETFs and all that. Don't be surprised to see a bunch of FUD articles or new scary things coming in that are going to try to get you out. Again, the tactic to take away from this video, when large institutions are trying to talk you into buying, sell. When they try to talk you into selling, buy, because that's what they're doing. They lie to you to make you do the opposite of what they really want to do so they can gather as much supply or as much wealth as possible. And that is the biggest takeaway from this video. This is a longer video for the mornings than we normally have. So T-Shroom, I'm going to jump in and do really quick charts just on Bitcoin, and we're going to call it a day for today. But of course, you guys can always join us for our 3 p.m. live shows every single weekday and our Saturday shows at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bitcoin, guys, we're going to take a very quick look here. Something that we have not covered necessarily, but you need to be aware of, is the 200-day moving average. The SMA continues to be a level of resistance. We lost it back here on the big crash on the 17th of August. We had one day where we closed above it, but the very next fell back below, and it continues to be a high level of resistance. Listen, you guys know for the short time frame, I've said it in this video, I'm bearish and I think the price will move to the downside. But if the bulls want to regain control, the number one thing they need to do is start closing some daily candles above this 200 SMA. The oscillators continue to stay bearish here on the daily chart. I'm still seeing them move to the downside in anticipation that we are working to form our right shoulder here on a head and shoulders pattern that could see price go down towards or below $20,000. We are still seeing some bullish signs on these shorter time frames, but the problem is that there's almost no volatility this low. So we are getting some buy flashes here on the 4-hour chart, but you guys can see we're working inside of a small symmetrical triangle pattern. Do not be surprised to see price potentially get back up here towards 27,800 or so, but get rejected, and then we have a big decision point. Remember, we got to get above 200, meaning we need to get above 28,000 for bulls to have real control. But in the short term, meaning the next day or so, do not be surprised if we kind of stay in a tight range between where we currently are, around 27.4, and maybe getting as high as 27,800. That is the TA we have for today in this show. But again, we'll have more Q&A and TA later on in our live show at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also will have our bro time today for all of our silver members. Right. Don't miss it. It's going to be at 4 o'clock right after our live show. With that said, though, that's all we have for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you did, smash the like button, hit subscribe, and we'll see you this afternoon.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shout it out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms news, catch a word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.